Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by the penultimate legend, the sexy shepherdess, the sexiest voice in triathlon himself, James Bell. Welcome back to the recording studio, mate. How you going?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. As you know, we've both been on our respective missions since leaving Germany, or that little place that I can't pronounce that's near Dresden. You're now in Girona, living it up. You're living Shipcat. You're living it up in Girona. You know, pouncing around like an endurance athlete, talent spotting pro cyclist presumably, and pesting Jan Frodeno. And I made my way back across the continent.
I did have
I did
have a whisper in his ear yesterday, mate.
Did you?
And yeah, we'll see that. You'll see the impact of my influence over the sport later when we get into the news. But you're right. I am in Girona. I arrived yesterday afternoon. So far so good. Went for a run. Got majorly lost, and yeah, so far so good. Got another 10 days here. Nice. After we do this, go out for 122k. I'm going to ride to the coast and then come back inland to Girona. So I'm looking forward to getting out on the TT bike and doing my cycling thing, mate. It's funny. Yesterday when we arrived, out there. Like just cyclists everywhere. Just cyclists absolutely everywhere. I was like, I think I'm going to have a good time here. It's going to be pretty
good.
So,
you'll be out doing some of those more well-known loops, and you'll get passed by lots of World Tour riders in their team kit out training.
I'm okay with that, to be honest, mate. I'm not too worried about that. But, I am worried about James Bell is telling people that this podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, the world's premier endurance sports community, created by four-time world champion Chris McCormack. Jimbo, we've just had an MX Endurance intense weekend. What's something you like about MX Endurance?
Oh, mate, what do I like about MX Endurance? Well, it was good getting a few of the members together for the first time in a long time this weekend at Sub7Sub8.
You're a new member.
Yeah, and I forgot about that. That's what I like, isn't it? all best laid plans. I like the fact that we have a new member in MX Endurance. Christian Blumenfeld has joined the squad, hasn't he? So Christian Blumenfeld, we were recording the podcast last week in one of the meeting rooms at the hotel, and him and his team came in to do a meeting. And before we said, "Oh yeah, you can have the rooms. It's a bigger room than we need." So as we were packing up our gear, he said, "How do I listen to those bonus episodes?" And I said, "Well, mate, you've got to be a member, haven't you, to listen to the bonus episodes?" And he said, "Well, I'll be a member then." And so we've he's Christian Blumenfeld, so we've gifted him a membership to MX Endurance. And Christian Blumenfeld is now poking around in the MX community's Facebook page and leaving comments and responding to questions. And it's good to have. It's good. I mean, the quality of members dipping slightly, but got to let him in, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I did like that this weekend. So every weekend we do like a race recap, all the members that have raced in different places around the world. It's like, so we had Tenchi race in Hawaii, we had Eggert race in Estonia, we had April race a local 10K, and we had Christian Blumenfeld do Sub7Sub8. How'd it go, guys?
Did he respond to that?
I don't know yet. I haven't checked, but I was just like, it was a bit funny, but no, it was good to catch up with everybody. I think we sat down for dinner.
We did.
I don't know if we did it after we recorded. I can't remember, but I think it was that day. And it was like things have really started to feel normal, to be there with the group of the crew.
It felt normal, didn't it? This weekend gone, more so than Utah did, felt normal. It felt like, COVID's still there somewhere poking around, but this felt like there was a real sense of getting back to how things should be to it. And mate, it was amazing seeing Sean Green do the mechanics work for Joe Skipper, because MX Endurance, mate, we're everywhere.
No, I think I put up a shout out. Two people do shout out a little bit at the start. Is Sean Green, who came over from Canada to be the team mechanic for Joe's team. Again, fantastic. And then we had Fernanda, who I give a hard time a lot, but she was my on-course spotter on race day, literally out and about all day, just letting me know what was happening off course. And yeah, that's just, purely the generosity of our community and these people that are just such fans of the sport. So to see them sort of, I'm sure Fernanda, who had VIP access, would have probably preferred to sit in the VIP lounge all day, but rolled up her sleeves and got amongst it and did her part for the community. So
it was a hot day to be out there as well, wasn't it? Hot day, mate.
It really wasn't that hot, James. It really wasn't.
It was so hot, man. It was really, really
you're just
hot.
a whingy, sooky pom, mate. Honestly, that's this narrative I noticed all weekend, being surrounded by you bastards. It was just, it's so hot. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's actually not. Like, Girona's hot, mate. I'm hot here now, right now. Like, this is warm, but Germany was fine. It was very comfortable.
Well, we're back, aren't we? We're back, and we're going to record an episode, and I assume we're going to discuss some of the things that have happened, because I only got back 5 hours ago, and then I got 2 hours sleep, and then I launched into my day.
Get out. Here's the violin, mate.
Yeah,
the world's
Tiny.
smallest violin. I'm feeling the sympathy for you, James. The company offers to fly you to the race. No, I'll drive. You drove there to let Robbie McEwen use your bike. That was your ulterior motive the whole time. And you're like, I did one ride. I'm like, yeah, mate. How was those 20 odd hours of driving worth it? Probably not. Anyway, you made your bed, champion. So no excuse. I'm not going to give you. I know you get no sympathy from me. I'm gonna be cutting to you, mate. I'm going to be getting you to name all the hard names, all that stuff. But let's get right into it, James Bell. We're going to talk about Sub7Sub8 later. I've got lots to say about that, but there's been a whole heap of other stuff that's happened since then. And the first one is the fact that I ran into Jan yesterday, and I said, mate, I'll tell you what, we need to see Jan Frodeno racing again. He said, Tim, you're right. I should. So I'm going to race Challenge Roth. I got this summary from Graham Shaw at Try 24/7. Jan Frodeno confirms he will return to action in Challenge Roth. So he's racing in Challenge Roth. The German superstar was forced to miss the defense of his Ironman title in St. George last month due to a partial tear of his Achilles tendon. Now his main goal for the year is regaining that Ironman World Championship title in Kona. And the main question was how and where he would decide to turn up for that challenge. The answer came on Wednesday when it was confirmed that he will take the German classic Roth on July 3rd. He said, in the last few months, I've noticed...
I'll read this bit. Didn't he say, in the last few months, I've noticed I need to set a goal again. And Tim Ford said there's no more fantastic race than Roth. The spectators and the whole community there are just overwhelming. I hope to see as many fans there as possible. So, yeah, I see that you've had quite the influence there.
It's true, mate. I'm a mover. I'm a shaker. I'm well connected in the sport. And I was like, come on, Jan, stop pretending, mate. We all want to see the champ come back. I did know if you noticed, I did on the Instagram comment, put up I tagged Christian and Gustav. I'm like, come on, boys, it's not too late to sign up. Let's get those two Norwegian boys over to finally see that. I reckon Roth would be a good place to see those two race each other.
Yeah, anyway, I think so too.
He does admit, Frodeno though admits he will have one eye on the future and Kona when he does line up in Roth. After my injury, I'll be very careful and pull the plug if I have to get out. But I don't even want to think about that yet. I'm just looking forward to a great race. See you on the start line. Frodeno is set to lock horns with two other German Ironman World Champions in Roth, including Patrick Lang and Sebastian Kienle. The race has added spice to with the presence of American big unit Sam Long, who fulfills a career ambition by competing in a triathlon classic, and Magnus Ditlev, fresh off his incredible debut in Texas. This Roth race, mate, is pretty stacked.
Yeah, it's looking pretty stacked, isn't it? I mean, because Patrick will be there and he will have local support and also have sponsor support. So, he does seem to enjoy a little bit of tactical support on the bike. Nothing untoward, but, he's...
Be a bit less subtle, mate. What are you suggesting? I know what you're suggesting, but let's make it.
Well, I mean, he does tend to within the legality of the sport, within the rules, he does tend to have a bit of pacing help on the bike. So we'll see how that transpires. It can do him the world of good. Sebastian Kienle, look, I mean, he's a legend of the sport. I can't see him firing. I can't see one more job for Sebastian Kienle at Roth, but it's great to see him there because he's on a bit of a jolly as he slides towards his retirement. Sam Long and Magnus Ditlev, both heavy hitters and up and coming in the sport. I can see Ditlev doing really well here with the sort of bike course that it is, rolling and fast. I can see Ditlev putting a lot of time into his competitors, and don't get a puncher. And don't shit yourself, Magnus. Those two things that have happened in the last two big races. But you're right, though. I think it would be very exciting to see Gustav and Christian race here because it's the course that kind of levels the both of them, doesn't it? It doesn't. The rolling nature of the bike course kind of suits both of them nicely. It doesn't lend itself to one or the other.
The Patrick Lang stuff you're saying, Andreas Dreitz obviously being one of those guys. He crashed in St. George. We talked about that. So I guess we're not going to see Andreas Dreitz.
No.
Been able to offer any assistance. So maybe things will be a little bit different. But like we focus a lot on that Gustav Christian versus Frodo thing. But I'm almost equally as excited to see the Frodo Patrick Langer battle because I don't know. I assume that Frodo's been in Patrick's head for a while. I still reckon that 2019 Kona meltdown that Patrick had was the Frodo effect. Again, I am putting words in his mouth, not like you, Jimbo. You would never do that. But like I'm really keen to see after we saw Patrick last year, that incredible performance in Tulsa, and then he's obviously been away for a while. That gets me excited. And then the thing to consider with somebody like Frodo is he only races when he thinks he's going to win, and that's not a bad thing. Like he goes into the race with the confidence, knowing that he can do what it takes to win. So Frodo must be on, man. Like he's not going out there just to go up and make it out the numbers.
Then it's unfortunate for him that Ditlev is going to take it off him. You're ready to win, also, mate. Again, but Magnus Ditlev is coming. Beep, beep.
Well, we saw that 240 run in Texas where he made his debut, and you think about that bike ride with, as you said, the flat that took out 9 minutes. Yeah, it's going to make things exciting, mate. But again, Frodeno, it's going to be cool to see where he's at.
Because I realize it's sacrilege saying Frodeno's not going to win in your presence, mate. I get it.
We can't always agree. It'd be a very boring podcast if we always agreed.
Frodeno fanboy through and through. I get it. But Ditlev for this race, mate. Mark my words.
What do you think what does that mean? Let's say Frodeno does lose. What does that mean, do you think? Does suddenly the conversation around Kona change a lot? Do you think
no, I don't think so. I think there is still that I'm being very careful after my injury to pull the plug, yeah. And I don't mean that he doesn't have to DNF in order to say, look, I was just testing the water, seeing where I sit, seeing where the land lays, and it wasn't feeling as comfortable as I was expecting it to, so I eased off a little bit. Or even if he doesn't ease off a little bit, he can just say, look, I'm racing my way back into shape. And Roth is not a bad place to do that. I don't see this as if he loses, oh my God, Frodeno's done. I don't see that. I just see it as if he wins, brilliant, the narrative is there. If he doesn't win, then he's coming back from an injury that saw him pull out of various races and onwards to Kona.
So it's almost like that he's got that. If he comes back, it's like, yep, never left. If it doesn't go according to plan, well, I'm on the way back. So it actually shouldn't really impact things either way.
That's the way I see it. It's like
cool.
It's a bit like Joe at Sub7, mate. Joe couldn't lose. Yeah. Only one man could lose that race, and that was Christian Blumenfeld.
He didn't. Let's anyway, I'm excited. Again, anytime I see Frodo announces he's racing, gets me excited, and I really think Roth's a great race for it. And that list is a pretty good start list. So I'm pretty excited for that Frodeno return. And yeah, Sam, I'm curious to see how Sam goes. He seems to be a bit soft at the longer stuff at the moment, but if that's his A race for the year, I mean, obviously I think St. George was, but he didn't go so well there. But if this is his next big focus, that he's not going to race Kona for Roth, and he's out, it could be interesting. So, I mean, it is going to be interesting. And I just wish I had known. I would have stayed another week in Europe, man, gone down and watched Roth, to be honest. But, oh, well. What can you do?
It's a shame, isn't it? Because when you were hunting around for training locations, Girona's a lovely place to be, but you could have gone on and hung around in Roth, done some training, done some swimming, watched the race, But what can you do?
I wouldn't have gone to Roth, gone back to Denmark, gone back to Roth. That wouldn't have worked. And I'm pretty keen to sample Girona. But look, let's talk about the next thing, because there was a number of incredible female performances over the weekend, and one of them was the fastest Ironman in history, and I should say the fastest Ironman branded race in history, and that was Laura Phillips, who set the new Ironman record to take the European Championship in Hamburg. I got this summary from Kevin McKinnon at Triathlon Magazine Canada, and he said the women's only Ironman European Championship race in Hamburg, with the men competing in Frankfurt later this month, saw Germany's Laura Phillip blast to the second fastest full distance time ever with her 8:18:20, just 7 seconds slower than Wellington's record. Phillip has bounced back from the disappointment of having to pull out of the Ironman World Championships in St. George because of COVID, with 2 big wins in the last couple of weekends. Phillip would have arrived in St. George as one of the pre-race favourites after her big win over Daniela Reif at Ironman 70.3 Dubai earlier this year, but ended up having to pull out of the race less than 2 weeks out. After recovering, Phillip won 70.3 Kratchgau last weekend and dominated the race in Hamburg on the weekend. Ironman rookie Chelsea Sodaro led the women out of the water in a 54.38, with Phillip just 1 second behind. Also in that lead group were France's Manon Ganet, Great Britain's Chantal Sainter. On the bike, the race quickly became the Laura Phillip show as the German rode away from the rest of the women, finishing the bike 4 minutes ahead of Sodaro after a blazing 4:31 bike split. That put the Germans 17 minutes up on Janet, who hit T2 in third. Phillip ran a 2:45:39 marathon to round out the day, crossing the line in 8:18:20, oh so close to Wellington's record. Sodaro finished the day with a 3 hour 21 second marathon to cross the line in 8:36:42, while Gennett hung on for third in 8:52.02. James Bale, that is a pretty fast female Ironman, mate.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you're going to test your test how you've recovered from COVID, this is proof, isn't it, that you're firing, because she obviously rocked up in good form. I mean, having won the race before the weekend before, and then pulled off this. It was a very fast marathon. Hey, 7 seconds off the record as well. It's that's going some. So big congratulations for that and for that result, and for it to happen on the same day as Sub7Sub8. It shows what's capable outside of the realms of that race as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd forgotten this race was happening, to be honest. I think we both were a little bit
Yeah,
caught
we
up
were
with what
both
was
a bit
happening.
caught up in our bubble.
And I guess a few things. I don't like that suddenly it's become which is more impressive, the Kat Matthews or the Laura Phillip result.
Oh, exactly.
Last weekend. I think
they complement each other.
I think that's a kind of pointless narrative, to be honest, because again, very, very different things. But in Kat's after the race speech, and I don't know if it was at the after party or if it was at the finish line, she basically said, she really thinks that Chrissy Wellington record is going to go this year. And to then hear this happened, I thought, no, she's right. And I reckon it's going to be very soon. I think we're going to see it not only broken this year, I think we're going to see it go down by a fair amount. And I genuinely think that, like with the 4-minute mile and things before us, that performance by Kat to not only go under 8 hours, but obliterate it, I think we're going to probably see women starting to go close to that 8-hour mark within 12 months. And again, Laura Phillip, it's just fantastic to see that she didn't really have too big of an impact as a result of COVID. She's right back at the top.
Exactly that.
And the fact that her and Kat, again, the only thing I will say, looking at those two performances, they seem to be on paper. And I understand the bike's a little bit different, but they're running very similar. They're swimming very similar. They're both very strong bike riders. That Kona race, mate, between those two plus Danny, it's going to be pretty fire, mate. And like we talk about, the guys we want to see race each other, the girls. I really want to see Laura Phillip and Kat Matthews come up against each other, because to me they're the two real rising stars of the sport at the moment. So yeah, that's going to be something.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing lots of memes online with like the Sub7 train, Sub8 train coming in, and then Laura Phillip derailing it, and it's all very funny.
Really?
But yeah. But it's all very amusing. But ultimately, I don't see the two things competing against each other. I think Sub7Sub8 was an entirely different event of its own making an ecosystem, and if anything, it's the proof of what is humanly possible in that environment is going to do nothing but make fire people up on the standard race kind of side and show, like you say, I think this Wellington record is going to go. She was so close to going under it, and onwards and more to come.
I think as well, one of the big narratives or the responses that I've used a lot when people carry on about Sub is to say that the two can exist at the same time and they don't detract from either. And I think that's a really good example of it, because what Laura Phillips did is absolutely incredible. And I don't think it's diminished in any way, shape or form by what Kat did. Just like I don't think Kat's performance at Sub is diminished in any way, shape or form by what Laura Phillip did. And people who insist on trying to compare the two or mix it up to say one has to be better, I think they sort of missed the point. Like that's the thing I keep trying to say is this is different. This is a different thing, and it's okay to have different things.
Yeah,
we can have more than one version of this. Yeah.
It's like they consider everything has got to be which is the one that we believe in, as opposed to there's
it's not Highlander, mate.
No, it reminds me a little bit of when 2020 cricket came along. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And
that way people were saying it's not the taking away from the purity of test matches, mate. I love a test match, but I love a 2020 game as well. Again,
well, let's go back to let's try to keep the reference within triathlon so our Americans don't fall asleep. But even when Super League came along, like people no longer see Super League as the same as World Triathlon. Like they exist, but they're separate. And I think that's where we're going to have to start heading with this stuff, is that there can be more than one version of long course triathlon. So anyway, I don't want to. We've had this conversation so many fucking times. I'm a bit sick of it. All I want to say is Laura Phillip is an incredible athlete, and to see her bounce back the way she did, to me, it's almost comparable to Joe in that sense. Had COVID, has come back with an absolutely stellar performance and shown that they're right back where they're right back where they belong, right at the top of the sport. So, and yeah, to come within 7 seconds of the greatest performance ever in female long course triathlon by Chrissy Wellington, yeah, mate, we're on the precipice of something, and I'm excited for it. Because the other thing to consider, and I didn't touch on it so much on that Roth thing, is that Annie Haug's racing Roth, and Annie had that incredible performance there last year, where if it wasn't 10K short because of the bike roadworks, I think we would have seen that record go. So
Yeah,
maybe that's where we'll see, man. Maybe next month we'll see Annie Haug smash that record. That'd be again the narrative within the next few months. That I said and Kat said. I think we're going to see some opportunities for that to happen.
totally. And all it does is shuffle the deck even deeper for Kona and later in the year.
Oh, mate, it's good. It's good.
Bring it on.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. It was a good weekend of endurance sports.
Yeah.
I put this one in, Jimbo, because I thought it was important, and I know that this is a bit of a sensitive subject for some people, and I don't think it should be. But I got this from Sarah Weston of Flynn at Triathlete magazine, and that's that Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon are offering a non-binary division. The women, sorry, it's gone. For the first time in its 41-year history, the Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon is offering a non-binary category for competitors when it goes off this Sunday, June 5th. This is the evolution we're moving with the times, race organizer Jen Lau said. Really, it's about fostering and providing equal opportunities for people to participate. And it's really about broadening and diversifying, I think, the athletic field. The race's open division recognizes those athletes who do not identify as either male or female, and awards will be given to the top 3, just as they are in gender-specific divisions. Chip Vow, a Vermont-based massage therapist who will be racing in the non-binary category, acknowledged the change as a watershed moment in the sport, saying, I think it just acknowledges all humans. It's just going to allow me to live my best life, really. I think this is really good, James.
Totally. Triathlon, we often pride ourselves on being part of a sport that's one of the most inclusive and equal out there. And anything that adds more inclusivity and more equality is always a good thing. And it kind of, it just means sort of have at it. Go for it. An extra division for those people that are non-binary, and that does nothing. If anybody moans about it, I wonder what they're moaning about, because it does nothing to impact their decision to race as male or female. So it's like, well, what's your problem, mate?
Wouldn't stop people, mate. We know what triathlon fans can be like.
Yeah,
I think we'll find some people who'll find. This is what John and Judy Collins wanted when they first did that triathlon in Kona.
Yeah. Anyway, they can get to fuck, because I think anything like I said, anything that brings more equality and more inclusivity and makes people feel like there's a sport there for them to be part of, as opposed to a barrier to entry, is nothing but a good thing.
And I also think it means that if this race, Alcatraz, one of the biggest races in the world, starts doing this, we're going to start to see this roll out at other races around the world too. And especially if it's successful, I can guarantee that if they see a lot of sign-ups in this division, it won't be long till Ironman start doing these at their races too. Because, Ironman are happy to, if there's a buck to be made, you can trust Ironman to jump on board and fill those slots, mate. So no dramas whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Before we talk about the races, another big race that happened over the weekend, I want to talk about a race that's coming up this weekend, because there is a humongous race happening in the UK, and that is, of course, WTCS Leeds. Now, John Levinson put together a really good summary of this event for Tri 24/7, and I'm going to go through it. And a good thing to note is at the start is that the Olympic qualifying points window is now open. So the start lists really are very impressive. The course is not an easy one, and we get to see the action over 2 days too, with individual and mixed relay events on the schedule. In the men's race, some of the people that we're going to see racing include Olympic silver and bronze medalists Alex Yee and Hayden Wild, recent Azarchenka World Cup winner Johnny Brownlee, double world champion Vincent Louis, the winners of all 3 of the 2022 ranking events so far, Tim Helwig, Jelle Gaines, and Alex Yee. Undisputed middle distance king Gustav Eden is on the start list. Throwing Martin Van Riel, Kevin McDowell, Ben Spasak, Richard Murray, and Jacob Birtwistle, and you have close to a full-strength field, with the only obvious exception being Christian Blumenfeld, who did a pretty fast iron distance race over the weekend. But let's have a bit of a chat around that men's field, mate, because this is it is worth noting that Olympic points start now. It's pretty stacked.
It is pretty stacked, isn't it? So does this mean Hayden Wild's in my hemisphere at the moment?
I believe he is. I saw he put up a thing. He was on his way there. So I'm surprised he hasn't got in touch with you, mate.
Yeah, I felt a bit of a shudder the other day. It must have been when he arrived. Hopefully you'll hear from him in the next few days. But yeah, that is a stacked field. It's got everyone, isn't it? Apart from Christian Blumenfeld. He would be the only name probably. Yeah, and Tyler. Obviously, Tyler Mistenchuk's not there, but I am one name that's standing out to me that I'm pleased to see on the start list that I didn't. But a while ago, I didn't think I'd see on a start list again was Richard Murray. So it's good to see Richard back racing at this level and taking part in a field like this and being a name on that list. So yeah, good work, Richard. Glad to see you're healthy and racing again, mate.
It's weird to think that it was a year ago that we saw Alex Yee have that first win, and to think about for Alex Yee that Leeds race and what's happened in the last 12 months. Like that was his first ever win, mate, and since then he's got a gold medal, a silver medal, Super League champion, more WTCS like wins. It's been one hell of a year for Alex Yee. Hey,
it really has, and he's kind of, it's almost like expectation he's traded places with Vince Louis a little bit in terms of expectations as to what's going to happen because before COVID was happening, Vince was the talk of the town. And now we've come out the other side of COVID and Vince Louis kind of, he's dropped down the expectation ladder a little bit. I would really like to see Mr. Louis come back and have a really strong year because he's a great bloke and seeing him succeed is something that makes me smile.
What do you think about Gustav Eden? We know that Gustav's planning on racing Kona this year, but I guess the fact that they've got Olympic points are starting, that Gustav's clearly trying to secure his spot for Paris. I heard that he was planning on racing it, but I didn't really believe it. I thought it was just the Norwegians being the Norwegians.
I mean, I'm the master of being wrong.
Maybe this is the Norwegians being the Norwegians, mate. So here we are.
I'm the master of being wrong. He may well go on to win Paris. He's part of the Norwegian team, so who knows? But, mate, in my mind, Gustav, stop it, mate. Just go race 70.3s and become a legend. Become a 70.3 legend. Stop doing this.
I think there's a few people in the field that would be happy to see him stop doing it too, mate.
Yeah.
But again, it's a course that suits him with that sort of hill in the middle of it. I don't know. Is it going to be the same course as last year, or are they going back to the original course that goes through town?
I think they're going back to the original course. Sorry, I got caught by a yawn then.
Sorry. We're keeping you awake, mate.
I think they're going back to the original course, but I'll have to double check that. Who's your pick on the men's side then?
It's Alex Yee.
Yeah? Interesting.
Yeah, it's Alex Yee.
Right.
I just see, again, he's got that, mate. He'll sit in the group. Like, again, I don't like the way Alex races, but he gets the results because you'll have Hayden who'll, close that gap. He'll then take a lead on the bike, and Alex will either have gone with him from the swim or already be in the group. He will then sit in the group and then get off, and you'll see the same that happened in Yokohama, where Alex and Hayden will run shoulder to shoulder, and Alex will put in the thing at the end and win. That's what's going to happen. Like, Alex here, I think, is almost impossible to beat at the moment because of that kick and that run that he has and the ability to just to get in the pack and sit there. Like, they really need to. If they want to stop Alex here winning this race, those guys get out of the water first. Vince, Martin.
Yeah, they need to take turns Johnny, attacking on the bike.
They need to fucking go, mate, because if they let Alex or Hayden Wild bridge up to them, it's game over, boys. Like, I'm sorry to say, but those guys are, like, Alex and Hayden in particular, are red hot at the moment. So
Alex is your man.
Alex is my man.
All right.
In the women's field, 15 of the current top 6.
Hold up. I haven't got my pick yet. I'm going to go with Martin Van Riel.
It's a good shout. It's a good shout. Martin Van Riel, third last year overall. Martin's a good athlete. Again, I just feel like he was a bit off when we saw him in Yokohama a couple of weeks ago. So I'm not sure, but I'd love to see him fire.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I love Martin Van Riel, one of my absolute favorite short course athletes. Can't wait to see him. I kind of want him. I'm kind of hoping that if the year doesn't go according to plan for him, he just goes fucking and goes and does 70.3 worlds.
Yeah.
So as much as I want him to do well in short course, I kind of am like, oh, maybe don't have the best year and just go, oh, let's go try to make some money. And then we see him up against Gustav, for example. I think that could be really good. In the women's race, 15 of the current 16 top WTCS athletes are on the start list, including the Olympic gold medalist, Flora Duffy, silver medalist, Georgia Taylor Brown medalist, along with Laura Lindemann, who also starts. They've taken the last 3 2020 WCS series wins so far. 2 of the top 3 from 12 months ago, Maya Kingma and Sophie Caldwell, in her first triathlon of the season, were race 2, along with with one of the fastest runners in the sport, Beth Potter, and the French duo of Cassandra Beaugrand and Leonie Perriot. The USA's Taylor Knibb will surely relish the prospect of a steep hill immediately out of T1, while Taylor Spivey has never finished lower than 7th in her 4th, and it is her 4th out of her 4 starts in Leeds. Those not racing, however, include home favourite and second place last year, Jess Lemont, having been forced out of the Arena Games in Singapore mid-race with an injury. That's a concern and must surely put a huge question around potential selection for the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. So the women's race, mate, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think it's also a fairly stacked field, isn't it? And it's quite an interesting dynamic because you've got different types of athletes who will approach it in different ways. I see Maya and Kit and Coldwell getting out of the water together first and going hard on the bike. It's unfortunate that Jess Learmont's not going to be there to be part of that team. Obviously, Maya will be looking to recreate her success from last year. But then you've got other athletes there who can be part of that mix. Flora will be trying to make her way up on the bike. Nib also trying to make her way up on the bike, is capable of coming out the water fairly strong as well. And Beth Potter will be looking to use that stinging run that she's got, along with Cassandra Beaugrand as well. So, I see a movable feast here.
I don't think Beth Potter's going to feature. I think that her swim and bike is just too weak. So she can run as fast as the clappers, but the deficit's going to be too great, especially when you have athletes like Flora Duffy and Maya Kingma and Sophie Coldwell in that front pack. I think those three are probably going to get away, much like they did last year. But then the unknown quantity, or the thing that again, it could go either way, is going to be, Georgia Taylor Brown as well, I should say, sorry, is Cassandra Beaugrand. I still think we're going to see something special out of Cassandra this year. And if she's there, especially on the run, and she doesn't crash like she did in Yokohama, we could see, something impressive. The thing again, we talk about Flora Duffy. She had COVID, and we've sort of said, what's that going to mean for her year a little bit? Much like Laura Phillip, maybe not a lot. Maybe we'll actually won't see her race. I don't know, but I do think that we are going to see that swim group with a tough course actually manage to get away. Taylor Nib will be part of it, so we're going to have those real powerful group of Maya, Flora, Taylor, the other Taylor, Georgia. I hope that they commit and get away, and they sort of make it a race like we saw in Yokohama, between 5 or 6 of them for that podium. And then I think it'll be a really exciting finish.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to see two different dynamics at play. Who's your pick?
History would say it's Maya, and the way that Maya's running at the moment, I'm going to go with Maya.
Yeah, it's annoying. I was going to go the same. I was going to say the same thing.
I'll go Cassandra then. I'll go Cassandra Beaugrand.
Okay, I see a bike group escaping, and I see Maya Kingma with her improvement in running over the last 12 months, capitalizing on that.
Leonie Perriot as well. She's another one. She was second in Yokohama?
Yeah.
Is that right? It was Georgia, Leonie, and third was Flora.
I believe so.
I really think we're going to see that similar group. I think that similar group from Yokohama will get out and get away, but with that addition of that hill. Taylor Nib was a bit weak on the run in Yokohama, and maybe the addition of the hill could, again, I don't know. She's also meant to be racing those PTO Tour events later on, so maybe she's not quite as sharp at the shorter stuff. I don't know, but I think we'll see that similar group get away, and it'll just be the tougher course will mean that the stronger athletes will probably have more success than maybe some of the people that are a bit softer. Maybe a Taylor or Georgia might struggle to sit into the group the way that they did in Yokohama. Don't know, but yeah, I think Maya, Flora, Cassandra, George, like any of them could ultimately win it. So it's going to be exciting, mate. Again, Leeds is a great race, and I'm happy. If it's a staple of the WTCS series.
It's come at the wrong time. Otherwise, I'd be up there. But it's just not doable this weekend to get up to Leeds. It's quite a long way. It's quite a long way.
So it's Germany, mate.
Yeah, it is. Germany is, yeah, but
So current rankings in the WTCS series in women, the first place is Georgia Taylor Brown on 1,925 points. She's got 2 races. Flora Duffy in second, 1,856 points with 2 races. Third place, Taylor Nib, 1,409 points, 2 races. Fourth place, Sian Rainsley, 1,209 points, 3 races. Fifth place, Erica Ackerland, 1,168 points after 3 races. In the men's, Leo Berger is in first place with 2,075 points after 3 races. Second place is Antonio Serrazioni, 1,923 points after 3 races. Third place, Pierre Lacour, 1,523 after 2 races. Fourth place, Hayden Wild, 1,504 after 2 places. And fifth, Tim Helwig, 1,484 after 3 races. I think we're going to see that quite different after this weekend.
I agree with you. There's going to be a shake-up. The Olympic qualification has started. Big hitters are coming out to play now. It's going to be all what's that saying? All hands on deck, mate.
Well, there we go. That's not what I was like. I don't know. All for one and one for all. I didn't know what you were. I didn't know what you were alluding to there. Well, mate, we've gone through everything. I think there's probably stuff that we missed. We always do manage to miss a few little bits and pieces, except for a certain race that we were both at in Germany last weekend. Sub7, Sub8 happened.
There's a lot to say here, isn't there? Hey?
There's a lot to say. How do you want to do it? How do you want to approach this, mate?
I don't know. I think we should talk about the build up first a little bit. I mean, yeah, we recorded last week's podcast on the Thursday, so we probably covered a lot of the dynamic in that week. And then after that Thursday podcast, what did we do? We went out for dinner. Did we? Did we go out for dinner? No, we didn't. That was the Friday we went out for dinner with the MX people. But we the race teams were kind of, the media stuff was easing off a little bit, sliding into the Friday and the Saturday. Couple of press conferences, then it was feet up on the Saturday to get ready for the Sunday. And what were you going to say?
There was so one of the things that they did, I think, on the Friday night was they did a Zwift ride with Kat, Nicola, Christian, and Joe. And while they were doing it, Will was doing interviewing them on Facebook. And it was so funny to see the girls who were riding at like 100 watts compared to Christian and Joe who were riding like 300 plus watts. And somehow Christian convinced Joe to see how hard he could ride for like what were the maximum watts Joe could hit. So Joe hit like, I don't know, 1120 something watts, which he was fucked. And it was funny. But when I was with Joe later that day in the hotel, Nicola Sprig was sitting there with He Who Must Not Be Named. And she looks at Joe and she's like, why did you do that? And Joe's like, I thought it'd be a bit of fun. And she's like, it was stupid. The race is in 2 days, Joe. Like she just, no buzz hole. Was just like, that was stupid. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And it made me laugh so hard. I thought, fucking hell, you got Nicola Sprig telling you you're stupid. You're like, maybe that was dumb. I don't know. But it was funny to see that. Like I think I said it last week on the show. The dynamic between Christian and Joe was so good. Like that was, to me, the absolute highlight of the week last week was seeing those two together because they really bounce off each other well. I think they're actually like, they really sort of complete each other as a set.
Yeah, they do a good YouTube channel together. We said this on the bonus episode last week because I listened to the bonus episode on my drive back, a bit of QA as I was going, and it was on the bonus we said it, so it wasn't on last week's show. But yeah, they have a real good dynamic together, and Joe was fucked after he did that. It was funny, like you say, standing there in front of those screens where you could see the watts they were putting out, the difference between the women who were just like, I am just spinning the pedals because I've got a race coming up. And the two blokes who had their egos out, sort of riding next to each other at 320, 330 watts, trying to maintain conversation and look like it didn't hurt. It was an interesting case study in the male and female mindset.
We also had the press conference, which was that was before that. So we had the official press conference where we had all the athletes together and their paces and everything. That was good. That was broadcast live. And then, it's sort of from Saturday, everything settled right down until it was race day. And what a race it was. What a race it was.
Race day, we sort of split our efforts on race day, didn't we? You were very much on the media side, in the media room, looking at the race from that perspective. Whereas I was initially more of an operational side because I was basically because we managed Kat and we managed Joe. I was following Kat's team to the swims. Joe's team had enough hands, so I was with Kat's team in their minibus, and we went to the swim start. I was taking gear. I was dropping the swimmers she had at the swim start, gathering all their gear up, getting back in the bus, taking it to T1, where I'd take all that gear into the changing tent, make sure everything was set up and ready, catch up with the cyclists who were there preparing. And then once they were finished warming up, they would disappear with all the stuff they needed to wait for Kat to arrive. I gathered up all of the remaining gear, which was loads of bags, piled it into the same minibus with the same geezer who kept disappearing. He just kept disappearing. I don't know whether he kept going for smokes or something, but I'd be getting a bit tense, and I'd be like, mate, got to stop disappearing. I need you here. And then we took all that stuff to the track. He dropped us at the track. We took all the gear out of the minibus, put it in the pit because they each had individual pit rooms with turbo trainers and stuff and buffets and things. And then I made my way over to the VIP area and basically just started schmoozing people. And that was my day, really. And
so you stopped watching the race. You weren't that interested in the race after that, hey?
Oh no, there was lots of race watching, but it was a very for me it was a tense entry into the day because you're trying to figure out which bus you need to be on, where you need to be, who's getting dropped where, and then things eased off a little bit. I don't think the tension ever eased for you, did it? Were you not on the case all day? How was your
Yeah,
morning?
so my day was.
So I've just taken everybody through mine. What happened in your morning?
So I got up. I was at the venue I left for the venue at 4:15 in the morning. So I was up at 3:30. Got to the race venue at 4:15. Did some again. So what I was doing on race day was I'm sort of a hybrid between social media and broadcast. I was putting up stuff on social media. So I recorded Will doing some stuff, and then I took some photos and everything. And then my main function was to follow the comments and stuff that was happening on social media and feed them through to broadcast. So at the bottom of the screen, there was always comments and tweets and stuff that would come up. That was me. I was finding the ones that I thought were relevant and putting them up, and then also taking the sections that I thought of the race were relevant and pulling those clips out and putting them on social media. Some funny things for my day was so I was also on the YouTube as Phoenix sometimes. And at one point, which we'll talk about, Nicola's team were doing really, really well. They suddenly started this theme of, where are those fucking MX boys? They said that Nicola was going to be 25 minutes down, and where are they? I bet they're quiet now. And I had a bit of a chuckle to myself because I was currently Phoenix. So I logged out of Phoenix and logged back in at myself. And I was like, hey guys, I'm here. Like, I'm watching this, and you're absolutely right. Like, we were wrong. And as I always say, happy to be wrong. But like, I just thought it was so funny that they're like, where are these dickheads? Haha. I'm like, I'm Phoenix at the moment, mate. Like, you're literally talking.
You're talking
you don't realize that I work. So I did. I logged out of the Phoenix. That was a little chuckle moment for me. And then, mate, it just didn't stop. So I was aware of the race, but because you were looking so intently at what was happening, you didn't follow it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So often I'd be, you know, okay, that moment, working out, okay, from this point to this point, I want this clip. So then I have to put it into the doc, contact the people in Sydney, say, can you cut me this out? Can we get it in the right formats? And so that was my day until literally once the broadcast ended, I still had to upload the recap sort of things for the end of the day. And then once it was over, I headed down to celebrate. And yeah, I'm proud because I was part of this event, and I think what we did was incredible. I think the broadcaster was high quality and everything, but it was a bit bittersweet, to be honest, because for me, as such a fan of the sport and having two of our athletes, and I really would have loved to have actually been out there and witnessing it. Like I did not see 1 second live of this race in person.
No, I know what you mean. When I was back in the day when I was working for Super League as a content collector and writer, you are watching the race for those moments that you need to write down and report on later. But you don't watch the race. You don't absorb it. You don't enjoy it. It's a very sort of sterile relationship you're having with the race during that period, because you're just looking for those moments and you're not actually taking it in as a whole. So I know what you mean by that. And I know that your day was fairly full on. There was an intensity to it, an underlying tension throughout the day, you know, because I think for the first time in my experience of long course triathlon, the race managed to maintain tension and interest from start to finish. So there was no period in the race. Normally when you're watching somebody do an Ironman, you're just like, have a good swim, off they go, and then they disappear on the bike and the track may or may not be working. But you've got a few hours to just be like, whatever, I'll have a chat with people. But there was no moment during the race where your brain was like, wow, who's catching who now? What's happening now? What's the time split? Are they making enough time up? Have they put enough distance in? Has Joe's team caught Christian's yet? They've caught them and passed them. What's Kat's team's doing? They're ahead of Nicola's. Is that gap going out enough? No, it's not. You know, it was full on, man. It was full on.
Yeah. So I guess we can talk about the race itself a little bit now, and I've got plenty of things to say about the actual race. The event's one thing, we'll put that to the side. But, you know, basically women started an hour before, and immediately Kat's team sort of was either alongside of or ahead of Nicola's team, which surprised me. I really thought that Nicola's team would probably end up having a couple of minutes. Considering, again, we can talk about this in the context of the paces too. Nicola did decide to use Lucy Buckingham. I think she was always going to. Like, you'd have to be pretty silly not to include one of the best swimmers in triathlon in your pacing team. And she had that Angela Mara, who was the 25K open water champion. And after the fact, mate, if you look at the actual files, Nicola's team swam like 200 meters more than everybody else. Their distance was 4 kilometers. So Nicola's decision to have the open water swimmer as her lead pacer because of her ability to sight well might have been, I mean, whether it's accurate, I don't know, whether it's just a GPS thing. but Kat's team sort of pulled alongside and then got ahead. And there was points watching that swim where Nicola seemed to be getting dropped off the back of the pack a little bit. So again, we knew that because of her injury, where she had that crash in February, that her swim wasn't where it used to be. But I think it became pretty apparent pretty quickly that it wasn't where it was meant to be. And the other thing that became apparent very quickly was that the swim times were going to be slower. The conditions weren't optimal for fast swimming. That was probably the only thing that was not ideal for fast racing that day, was that there did seem to be a slight current against the swimmers. And we saw that all of them had their predicted swim times were off. So I've got the actual predicted times and the actuals here, mate. So in the swim, Nicola predicted that she was going to swim a 50-minute flat. Hang on, where is it? Yep. So she said 50 minutes, and she swam, and she was 4 minutes 19 short of it. Is that right? Have I just doubled up here? Oh, she was, she swam 54, I think. And then you had Kat, who also said she was going to swim 50, and she swam a 54. I think, again, I regret, I don't understand what my notes are now. But we saw that they were basically off the pace, and that straight away meant that they were going to have to pick up the pace on the bike to make sure that they hit those targets.
Absolutely. And like you say, going back to the way you started that analysis of the swim, I'd reached T1 at this point. So we were watching it. I was watching it with Kat's bike paces on our phones as they were warming up. And Kat initially was alongside, and then Nicola pulled away. And then you were thinking, okay, well, this is the point where Nicola pulls away and puts some distance in. But it wasn't. We were thinking Kat was swimming strong enough to not lose that much time. And then before we knew it, Kat had pulled alongside and taken the lead again and was first out the water. And it was like, there was a cheer in that room, mate. It was from our side of the garage anyway. It was it was a good moment. But like you say, the only thing about the day that was suboptimal when it comes to swim, bike or run was the swim. It didn't quite generate the times we were hoping for.
Yeah. And then onto the bike, I was like, game over. Like, nah, if Nicola was going to have anything to do with this, it was going to be she needed a little bit of a lead and then have a really good run, because Kat's team were going to ride. And I was very vocal about this. Kat's team were going to ride 20 minutes into Nicola. And, mate, I could not have been more wrong. I think I am still in shock and awe about Nicola's bike team performance. I think that is Nicola's bike performance is possibly the performance of the day for me, just because I just didn't think they had it in them, mate. Like, I really questioned Nicola's approaches. And as I've said a million times, I'm always happy to be proven wrong and admit that I'm wrong. I was wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong on that. Like, they were incredible to see that they looked good. They were obviously a little bit slower than Kat's team. And, mate, to only, what was the gap? Like 3.5 minutes or something between the two of them. Like,
yeah.
Kat rode a 350 and Nicola rode a 350, 316. So, and Nicola's bike time was 25 minutes faster than she predicted her time would be, and Kat's was 6 minutes slower than she predicted it would be.
Yeah, it was. It's the one element of the race we were both very, very incorrect about. Now, I think it was educated incorrectness because of the rumblings we'd heard coming out of the teams all week. We were talking to members of Nicola's team, and they were like, "We're not using disc wheels. We're not using time trial bike. We're not. It's not being approached in the scientific way that Kat's team was approaching it." And so we were expecting that definite deficit to be a lot more severe than it was. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. I mean, that's what we do. We speculate about sporting events that haven't happened yet. If we got it right all the time, we'd be very rich people, because we'd constantly be making sport. I wouldn't be on a podcast. I'd just be making sports bets, mate, constantly. And so, but that deficit made the race what it was because it wasn't there. If Kat had ridden that 20 minutes into Nicola, we wouldn't have seen the run race that we did. And thank God,
100%.
Thank God we did, because what an experience as a fan of the sport and as an audience member, but also someone who's invested in Kat Matthews and what she achieves. What a ride that was, mate.
Can I ask what your thoughts were when you saw the gap was only 3.5 minutes off the bike?
Yeah.
What
Well,
was going through?
my thoughts were okay. I back Kat as a runner because she's got a stinging run, and I was like, okay, it's at no point did my brain think it was game over. Now, there was a point where my brain thought it was game over, and that was when that time was tumbling as fast as it was off the bike. That's when I thought
Kat didn't look happy.
No, and I backed Kat all the way, and I was backing her. I was sitting there with people, sponsors and journalists, and I was saying, no, don't read into this time tumbling as quickly as it is, because Kat, as a runner, she paces herself through a race, and she has a very strong finish, and she won't fade. So it's not over. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, God, that time's coming down quickly. Nicola's running lumps into her at this point. And if it continued in that manner, then Nicola would have gone past her and held on, but it didn't. Now, when Nicola caught and passed Kat, I was sat next to journalist Tim Hemming at that point, who'd been writing his little article all day. His little article. His really big, important article. Sorry, Tim.
Deep. Use very fancy words.
Yeah. And we'd been shooting the breeze backwards and forwards, and he was asking my opinion and stuff, and I was asking his, and I got on with Tim well. He's a good bloke. And
He's a legend.
So Kat had been passed by Nicola, and he turned to me at that point and said, my article's done. I'll submit this and it will get published and jobs are good. And I said to him, well, that gap that Nicola's just put into Kat is holding at 5 seconds, mate. And I said, now's not the time to submit your article, because, it's Kat. If Kat was blowing up, she'd be going backwards quicker than that. That 5 seconds is holding. And then within 5 minutes, Kat had rallied and pulled Nicola back and had gone past her. We saw the implementation of Kat having 2 paces on the course. We saw at one point there was a gap between her and her paces. It was like her paces were saying, "This is the pace we need to be running at. Come with us now, because we're going to win this." And the gap went out between Kat and her paces a little bit, but then it narrowed, and then the comeback was on, and then I was a very happy man at that point, mate. I don't know about you, but I think we rang each other. Didn't we? I rang you or you rang me, and we just said mate at each other for about 30 seconds backwards and forwards, and then managed to have a conversation.
I do remember that. I do need to point. I think I got the bike times wrong, where I said that. So Nicola was 3:53 minus 20, so 25 minutes faster. But Kat was also 3:50, so she was nearly 10 minutes, 9:54 faster than she predicted too, because she said she was going to ride 4 hours. So I just wanted to correct that. But when I think at points. When I saw the gap on the run was less, again, I was like, Kat's a very good runner. But I think I also was like, my focus then went from, it'd be great if she wins, but the main thing now is the sub-8. Like, let's make sure that's in the bag. And I think that probably is, and I hate to admit, I know you listen, Kat, and I'm sorry, but I did think Nicola might have it at that point, just because Nicola's Nicola.
Yeah.
But there was also this thing, I think when you saw that time was coming down, because I never thought Nicola would be that close off the bike. Like, it was such a, it was such a shock to me. I think it wasn't necessarily rational thought. And when I saw the pass, I was a bit like, okay. Like,
yeah, that was when you messaged me and said she's passed her. And I said, I know, but I think I messaged you and said, if you were standing where I'm standing, you would see Nicola's face, and she is not comfortable. Well, she is chasing an effort.
This is what. So again, you want to talk about my day. So as soon as Nicola passed, I rewound the footage. I said, from this point to this point, I need the footage so I can upload it to social media. So then I'm sitting there, I'm putting up the comments. Okay, Nicola's past Kat. And by the time I look up again at the screen, Kat's back alongside, or it was Indy Lee was back on side with Nicola. And I thought to myself, it's a replay. I was like, oh, why are they replaying the pass again? And then I went, hang on a second. They were on the other. Fucking Kat's passing Nicola. And I was up, and there was a few people in the media center, and I was like, mate, I was wooing. I was like, oh my God, Kat's up. She's got her. And there's like people who are trying to write their articles and stuff are like looking at this guy who's just been in the corner working like a dog all day. And I'm suddenly clapping my hands. I'm animated. I'm running around. I'm on the phone to you. I was loving it, mate. Like, I had tears in my eyes. It was so incredible. It was such a, again, I think I'd sort of assumed that the day was over, and then to see Kat make that pass.
Yeah, it was a very visceral moment, wasn't it? When that pass happened, I was standing next to Bob the Wolf on course, and we had a full-on Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator high five moment. It was quite the moment.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. And I think one of the other things, so Graham Atchison, who was doing the live splits and everything for us for the broadcast, I thought, I'm a geek, this guy's a data geek. We're actually talking about some really cool stuff we want to do together. But he was sending me stats, and there was one point during the run, they said, if their paces stay the same, it's going to come down to 29-second difference. Like, that's how close this race is going to be. And I'm like, what the fuck? How is that possible? Like, this is not possible. So to have that the closeness of it, and then to suddenly see once it's funny because once Kat passed Nicola that second time, suddenly Kat looked good, and Nicola hit the wall. Like that's what I heard Chris was saying. Like that's hitting the wall. And being where I was, Nicola's team were running around trying to find Coke. They're like, she's gone too deep. She needs Coke. And I was in the back of my head being like, I hope nobody gives them any Coke. Like I just want Kat to win this thing now.
Just hiding the Coke under the table.
Hiding the Coke. So then to see, obviously, so their run splits in the end. Nicola ran a 2:45 and Kat ran a 2:46, which was that was 6 minutes faster than she was planning. I was wrong. She planned to run a 2:40 marathon. To finish with a 7:31.54, which was 54 seconds off her predicted finish time, and Nicola with a 7:34, which was 20 minutes faster than her predicted finish time. Kat Matthews, the first woman to ever break 8 hours for a full distance triathlon, and Nicola, the second woman ever to break a sub 8 hour long distance triathlon. It was incredible, mate. It was, and the thing that I we'd spoken a little bit about, and I think I'll talk about later, but was the team. The fact that the team ran down the finish line together. That was a really good moment of the broadcast. And I think that was something that was worth celebrating.
It was because we talked about it on last week's show, but the atmosphere didn't spend much time within Nicola's team, so I can't speak for it. And it's not because it wasn't there. It's just because I didn't experience it. But I spent a lot of time within Kat's team, and the atmosphere within that group of women was astounding. They were there to do a job, and they had smiles on their faces, and they were there for their leader. And that came from the top. The atmosphere that had been created in that team came from the top down. And it was a unified, cohesive group of people that were pulling for one goal. And it was brilliant, mate, watching them come down the finishing straight to meet Kat, and they all had an embrace, and then Kat was swinging champagne, and then the group of women who were on Kat's team saw me standing there, so I got absolutely bundled by all of them. It was quite the moment. It was cool.
And then we had the men's race. So the men started off an hour behind the women, and Christian had the one pacer who was Lars Battaglia, I think was his pacer, and then Joe had Alistair Brownlee pacing for him, and Joe had the form guy behind him. So I know people think that guy wasn't an actual pacer; he was just there to capture the data. His name's Max Stapley. And mate, almost immediately there was a gap. Like very, very quickly there was a big gap. And from talking with Joe after the race, he was just saying that like he wished he had more time to swim with Alistair because it's just not something that I guess he's ever really used to. And they sort of struggled to find rhythm and all that sort of stuff. And so they swam. So Christian just went away. Christian swam a 48:21, which is 3 minutes slower than he predicted. And Joe swam a 53:24, which was 4 minutes 24 slower than he predicted. And again, immediately there was nearly a 5 minute gap between the two of them, and it was all about the bike, mate. Now, one of the things that was good in the lead up to this was Joe came out and said this team wanted to ride a 3:20, and I was there with Robbie McEwen, a great of cycling, who's like, nah, okay, I think they're taking the piss a little bit. And I know that Christian's team had come out and said that they were going to ride. He was just aiming for 7 hours, but I heard that they were actually aiming for a 3. They thought they could ride a 3:35. That's what they were aiming for. So onto the bike, mate, and it was on.
Yeah, so right. There's a deficit at the swim, and a bigger deficit than I was comfortable with, and I was like, oh, it's a bit of a deficit there, Joe. But before we get into the nitty-gritty and the minutiae of the event, I think it's important to make clear that Joe came into this, his attitude and his approach to it was so laid back because he only had 8 days notice that he was going to do this. So he had to disassociate himself from the details a little bit and be like, right, I'm stepping into an existing team, and I can't be too wrapped up in trying to, like you say, worrying too much that he hadn't swum with Ali, worrying too much that he hadn't practiced over and over again with the bike team. He was letting experts be experts a little bit, and he was going to do his best to be part of that. He did spend a lot of time with the bike team, getting to grips with them, but probably not as much as he'd wanted. I remember in one of the pre-race briefings, the bike team, there was a lot of concern and chat around what it was going to be like from a physiological standpoint for Joe to run a marathon off the back of a 3:20 bike that they were aiming for, and whether that would be possible. And there were different opinions and voices chiming in, but it was Joe that took control of that moment and said, boys, you ride that time and let me worry about what it feels like to run a marathon.
I love it. That's the quote of the weekend for me, to be honest.
It really is, and
incredible.
that sums him up a little bit. I think in that moment to just be, and everybody was just like, game on. And so they did, and they went out and getting onto that bike. You had these two bike teams that had their own competition going on. They had their own inter-team rivalry going on. It felt different to what Nicola and Kat were doing, because Nicola and Kat were sort of changing in and out. Nicola's team wasn't, but Kat's team was changing in and out. You didn't feel like there was an existing historical rivalry between the two bike teams, because they weren't all from exactly the same world. But on the men's side, you had a group of time trialists, mainly British, who were like, fuck you, we're going to have this. And they went at it. And Joe's team went at it exceptionally well as well. I mean, you're talking some of the best time trialists in the world all working together in unison, and they went like fucking hell did they go on that bike. Joe's team recorded a 3:16.42 with an average of 55.2 kilometers an hour. 55.2 kilometers an hour, mate. That's the breaking the hour record 3 times in a row. It's the fastest team time trial that's ever been ridden. These stats will exist for some time now, because even if this happens again, will you get that quality rider back together again? Those boys, mate, they went to the well for Joe, and it was lovely to see. I love watching a team time trial and watching that, and I got to do a couple of laps in the team car with Team Matthews, and whilst I was in the team car, Joe's men's team came past us. Dowsett gave me a little thumbs up as he went by, and it was just like, nah, this is good. I like this. I was as the world's second biggest cycling fan, mate. I was pesting.
Yeah, I hope that the performance and as you said, the fact that we saw the hour record broken 3 times in a row and those sort of things will hopefully silence a lot of people who thought. I think people, when they visioned this, was literally just going to be a peloton of riders with Joe just on the back, like out for a Sunday jolly. And I think that watching not only the speeds that these guys rode at, but the skills required to make sure that they stayed in line. The fact that you saw that near missing Christian's team, like the ability to stay focused and that precision for that long, to see these incredible splits. Like, this ain't fucking about, mate. This isn't just Joe sitting on the back having a sandwich. Like, we're talking about a crew committed to the fastest possible time they could ride. If you can't like that, then what are you doing? Like, you obviously don't really care about cycling, because I think, as the world's biggest cycling fan, the TTT is my favorite event. I love it so much. So to see it done this way, and then also to have Joe, a triathlete, and Christian, a triathlete, part of it, it was phenomenal. And like I said, I think nobody is as big a fan of cycling as I am, but if you do a bit of research into what they delivered, you will realize the magnitude of this performance. It is, we haven't been able to find anything, the fastest 180 kilometers ever ridden in history, ever, we think. It was seconds, and I mean seconds off the 100-mile TT record. It was we are talking about numbers that have never seen before, and it was in a triathlon, mate. Like, it was in
exactly.
An triathlon.
And if you're sitting at home and you're angry that this event is taking place, because it takes away from the purity of the sport, and it doesn't really count because he's just getting towed around. And all I can say to you is, fuck off. Go and watch something else, and fuck off my Twitter feed. Like, just do one. I don't want to hear it.
Did you see? I put up that tweet after the racing. Yeah, didn't that draft legal make this really boring? Like, drafting clearly has no. And there were so many people who obviously haven't watched it, but were just like haters who thought I was being sincere. And one guy's like, he's like, I think you're talking tosh. This was excellent. I'm like, mate, you need to turn your sarcasm detector. And he's like, maybe you do too. I'm like, were you being sarcastic about me talking rubbish, or about enjoying the race? Because I don't think you're making sense here, champ.
You had an inception moment with him, didn't you? You found yourself in multi-layers of sense making. Yeah, I just think it was a spectacle to behold. It was amazing. And the athletes, when they finished, once the whole thing was over, the paces they frothed for it, but also the triathletes, they were saying, it wasn't easy. It wasn't armchair ride. Kat was saying that was tough. That was mentally tough. That was
She was the limiting factor, is what she said. She was what was slowing the team down.
yeah. And Joe had to hang on, and he had to hang on, and he did.
He said it's the best triathlon he's ever done. He said it's the best thing he's ever been part of.
Yeah.
He's done 30 Ironmans or something. Like, that's how much he enjoyed it. And
So
then it came down to the run, mate.
On to the run. Now, Joe Skipper comes off the bike with a lead, doesn't he? And we're like,
he does.
We're like, come on, Joe. And this is when we whipped out the secret weapon that nobody knew about. Hey? And I loved it, mate, because I was sitting there going, wait, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And that's when Mr. Weed Killer turned up. And everybody, the social media went wild. Everybody loves Mr. Weed Killer Man. And so Frank paced Joe out on the run, and he did such a good job. He was a good job. He was on hand, drinks, motivation, ice, whatever Joe needed. And we had Mr. Weed Killer spraying Joe down.
Lee, his name is Lee.
Yeah, Weed Killer Man, as he will forever be known. And it was fantastic. But Christian set off, didn't he? He didn't run the 220 that he said he was going to run, but he set off with his pacer. And he did reel Joe in, but when he caught Joe, there was a moment in my mind where I was like, right, you're a warrior, Joe. And I was like, is he gonna just blow when Christian goes past him and lose 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever? Who knows? But he didn't, mate. He rallied and he kept going. And on that final lap, I was running alongside him for a little bit, and I screamed at him. I said, Joe, mate, you're going to do it. You're going to go sub-7. And he said to me afterwards, he didn't think he was going to go sub-7 until I said that to him. He thought he'd fucked it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he thought he'd fucked it. He thought he was coming in way over the 7 hours.
I do love one of my favorites. Like, so obviously talking with Joe a fair bit after the race, he said that when Christian passed him, I love this. It's so Joe. So Joe had barked at Christian as he passed him on the bike, and then Christian barked at him, and he goes, I knew you were going to fucking do that. And he says, he looks at Christian and he says, if you blow, I'm going to fucking have you. I love that so much. Now, again, I think it is important to note, Joe Skipper had COVID just before St. George, and he told me that his longest run since COVID, since Ironman South Africa, was 10 miles.
Yeah.
That is the longest he had run in weeks. So to go out there and drop a 2:36 marathon was incredible. And then Christian, there's nothing that Christian Blumenfeld doesn't seem to be able to do, but like that run, 2:31, I think he ended up running to finish 6:44, and Joe was 6:47.
He ran 3 minutes Blumenfeld ran a 2:30.50. Yeah, so
2:30.50. Okay.
Amazing.
It was incredible. Both incredible athletes, and again, that there's that photo of them at the finish line embracing, and I think it just captures it. Like again, while it was a race, I think the thing I got the sense of, and something I spoke with, it was like, did the history or the weight of it hit them? Like, no matter what Kat does ever now for the rest of her career, and I know it's going to be amazing, she is the first woman who ever went under 8 hours she did that. And same with Christian. Like, this is something that can never be taken away. I understand it's not a regulation I understand that stuff. But like, for me, from the goal of showing what can be possible, I think it absolutely, absolutely succeeded. And the guts that all of them all four of those athletes had things go wrong.
Joe Skipper.
Christian's team nearly crashed. But mate, it was phenomenal. And yeah, I'll be honest, like, again, I said I got a bit emotional when I saw Kat pass Nicola. Joe finishing, mate, really got me. Like, I was fucking proud of Joe, knowing that he'd come in with 8 days and like, let's have a go, and to do what he did. Like, he finished
36 seconds off his predicted time, 6:47.36, and Christian Blumenfeld is finishing in 6:44.25, through just over 3 minutes behind him. Amazing. And 8 days notice.
The thing I love is all, like, for the 2 days afterwards, Joe just kept saying, I just wish I was as fit as I was before South Africa, because I would have beat him. Like, this is what's good, is that, you don't want Joe to suddenly be going, I guess I can never beat Christian. Joe's like, mate, I'm in with a shot. Like, I think that this performance is actually motivating Joe even more to be like, Christian, I'm going to fucking have you in Kona, mate. Like, I love that. I love that it is.
Yeah.
That
if you blow, I'm going to have you. Each other. I love that. I didn't know he'd said that. Fucking have you.
Nah, it was, again,
to come in with
incredible.
eight days notice and to do what he did, to go sub-7 like he did. Like I said earlier in the podcast, in my mind, there was only one man that was capable of losing this race, and that was Christian Blumenfeld. Joe Skipper was always going to solidify himself as a warrior simply for taking his shot. Now, he did more than that by going 6:47.36 as strongly as he did. This, mate, everybody all week, people have been saying this is Rocky 4. I've decided on my drive home this morning, it's not Rocky 4. This was Rocky 1, mate. This is Rocky 1. He took his shot and he lost, but he came fucking close. And there are going to be sequels. You wait. Joe Skipper, mate, he's here, and he is the fucking bollocks.
Yeah. Oh man, all four of those athletes all just had, like, there was so many highs from that race. Like, and being on the socials, this is again something I spoke to the internal team about. This, watching the broadcast stream during the day, I really think we did win a lot of people, because at the start it was like, this is bullshit. This isn't a real triathlon. Look how slow they're swimming. They're not going to do it. See, the swim sucks. It's game over. Don't even bother watching. Oh, they're riding pretty fast. Oh, they're riding really fast. Oh shit, they're really riding fast. Oh, they're going to slow down. Oh, they're not slowing down. Oh my God, they're fucking flying. What the hell are they doing? But they're going to blow up on the run. They're not blowing up on the run. Oh my God, they're going to do to the end. And everybody's like, this was fantastic. Maybe next time they can do it like this. Imagine if this.
Yeah.
The way the narrative shifted
captured
through
the
the
imagination of the audience, didn't it?
It made me sit back and just be like, finally, this is what we have been saying for months now, is that it's different. And one of the things I was really hoping as a result of this race is we would start to see more of this sort of event happen. And I believe that there's going to be another one of these next year. And I really think this, everybody raved about the broadcast, that we absolutely hit it out of the park with the broadcast. Like, people are saying you can't make long course triathlon exciting. Here's the example of how you can. It appeals to the cycling market, something we have access to a whole new audience of people, because they're like, fucking hell, these triathletes did what? Like, there's that aspect of it. Like, I think that this really is the start of something. And again, if people can just separate their obsession with Ironman and go, it still exists. It's still its own thing. It is still incredible. This is just something different.
And also, what's good for the sport is it's not just the audience that was watching at home that was captured by it. I have had message after message after message after handshake after slap on the back from sponsors and partners of the event saying, we didn't know it was going to be this good. And it's nice to be able to showcase quite how good it was, and to be able to say, we knew it was going to be this good, and I'm glad you were on board to see it.
I think you need to transition to the next part of the show, James, because I want to have a chat around this. So if you want to do your little thing, and we'll keep
quick
going.
One though. Before we move off the bike teams, I'm still in the group chat with Joe's bike pacers. A lot of them have started going for runs and swims now, mate. We've created
Look out.
we've created triathletes, and what was it? One of them, I can't remember who, but there was a comment yesterday. It was quite funny. Joe said, "Oh, you've all got to learn to swim a bit faster," and they went, "No, mate, we're just going to enjoy barking at all the people we pass on the bike."
Amazing.
Anyway, welcome to the Down Low on the PTO.
So Jimbo, we obviously, it wasn't a whole, it's been very Sub7Sub8 this week. And I actually saw the PTO came out and made a statement about everything that happened over the weekend. And Sam said, reflecting on the weekend's achievements, he said, our huge congratulations to all 4 PTO athletes competing in the Phoenix Sub7Sub8 challenge yesterday for their superhuman performances. While the plaudits will rightly go to Christian and Kat for winning their respective races, all 4 have shone an unmissable spotlight on what incredible athletes we have in the sport. He said in 1977, John and Judy Collins sought to answer the question of who the greatest endurance athlete was, a swimmer, cyclist, or runner. This weekend's racing has reinforced the answer that triathletes are the greatest endurance athletes in the world. Put that together with Laura Phillip's astonishing time in Hamburg, and it's been a stellar weekend of action. Now, what I wanted to have a discussion around quickly, because we're doing pretty well for time, was what do you think the PTO can and will learn from the Sub7Sub8 race? What would you like to see them take from this and start to implement in what they do?
Yeah, I was actually talking to Sam yesterday, and when I was on the Eurotunnel, we were having a bit of a back and forth, and he was like, "So you're going to do more of these?" And I was like, "Well, I think there's a hankering for it." Now, what could the PTO learn? Well, I don't know really. I think there are probably elements of the broadcast that as we can all work together on to try and bring triathlon up to a certain level. I think from a data perspective and a timing perspective, there's probably still tweaks to do across the board. The timing was good at Sub7Sub8, but there were moments where the commentary team were saying things like, "I don't think that split is quite accurate." But also, what I'd love to see. Come on, Sam. I know you're listening, mate. I know you listen. Look how exciting that TTT was in that race. Now imagine, Mr. Renouf, if you gave these teams at the Collins Cup, at some point within that dynamic where they're racing, there's an element where the bikers are allowed, for each team, are allowed to work together in a team time trial against the other two teams. That'd be cool. Let's make that happen, Sam. Come on, mate. Come on.
That's one of the big takeaways for me was the team atmosphere. Now, we heard people last year at the Collins Cup saying, "Oh, it's cool to be part of a team." Like, normally all solo, but it's nice to be part of a team. But I don't think it was a real team. Whereas here, they were teams, mate. Like, they were full.
I've never seen a team dynamic like it.
See, I really think that there's, again, I'm not saying we stop the Collins Cup. I'm not saying we stop the PTO tours. I'm saying I'd love to see the PTO get involved with this, and we start to, maybe it's like the Collins Cup's the non-drafting one, and the Bale Cup is the drafting one or something. Where
it's definitely got to be called the Bale Cup. Teams,
yeah. The Bale Cup, I mean, it just rolls off the tongue, mate, as you well know. But I think that's probably the big thing for me, is I really think that there's something about that. And again, I just think that race was less than 7 hours, so we're talking about a manageable broadcast. It appeals to a wider audience. You could have teams, so Jan rides Canyon, so you get the Canyon, Pro Rider on Canyon deal. They're his team. Ali's BMC, so you have the BMC guys on. You could start to do stuff like that, and then you have this full-on race built around the best triathletes in the world. It comes down to that battle on the run, and it could be. And again, maybe it's not. Maybe they don't need paces in the swim and the run. Maybe they just need them on the bike. I don't know exactly, but I do genuinely think that there's again a world in which we can see. We've seen that Ironman aren't willing to work with the PTO, but I think there's a world where Phoenix, Mana, and the PTO can start to create something pretty special, and I hope it does.
Yeah, that is the answer, isn't it? Sam, come on, mate. Let's all get into bed.
Our people will talk to your people.
Let's all get into bed together. I'll be Big Spoon.
You said that a lot the last week. I think you offered to be Big Spoon to a few people. If you're interested in being Little Spoon to James's Big Spoon, you can join MX Endurance. If you head to mxendurance.com/podcast, you can sign up for one of our podcast memberships. Thank you to everybody who joined last week. They obviously wanted the exclusive members episode we did with the guys from the race. James, we're going to have to start doing more of that because we had a whole heap of signups last week, mate. So we're going to have to start putting more stuff behind the paywall. Mac is obviously not a big enough draw card, but if you want to listen to that episode as well as the other 23 members-only episodes, be like Christian Blumenfeld because he's now got access to them all. Head to mxendurance.com/podcast. If you sign up for an annual membership, it's $3.40 a month or $49 for the year. You get partner discounts on things like Mortan. What else have we got? Blue 70. We're in talks with a bike brand again at the moment. Like, there's a lot happening. So great way to support the podcast. It gets us to these events. We're trying to get to Kona later in the year and do similar stuff to what we did there. So if you want to be part of it and you like the show, that's how you do it. James, if they want to find out other things, what do they need to do?
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at Bale.James85 on Instagram. And my followers have increased, mate, over the last week. I've gained about 150, I'd say. You'd be proud of me. You can follow Tim at tford14 on Instagram. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. And yeah, anyway, I think the podcast is over because it's just told me that it's kicked me out of Zencaster. Can you still hear me?
Really?
Problem saving local backup of audio. Anyway, if you any suggestions, questions, comments, podcast mxendurance.com.
All right, mate.
Cheerio.